And so everyone, it's been an absolute honor getting to know all of you over these past 4 years. So as we part ways, I want to give thanks to Principal Evans, Mr. Dean, Mrs. O'Connor, but the real reason I'm standing up here today as your valedictorian is because of someone else. It's not my parents, it's not my brother, but Gohar. Well, isn't that so kind of you? In case you're new here, hi, my name is Gohar, and my mission is to help students succeed inside and outside of school. I spent my entire academic career trying to crack the code on exams, extracurriculars, and college admissions, which is a nicer way of saying that I was a huge nerd. Now, if all that sounds good, be sure to buckle up and subscribe, because here are the 4 principles for becoming a top 1% student. Principle number 1 is to beware of shiny object syndrome. So you want to know one thing that a lot of people aren't the best at, including myself? Staying focused. I can already see you eyeing the other videos in the recommended tab. Stop that. I need you to pay attention here. So shiny object syndrome is a phenomenon that I think prevents many students from reaching their full potential. And here's a quick 2-second definition. Shiny object syndrome is when you're constantly distracted by new and exciting opportunities, often at the expense of what you're already working on. In other words, it's when you jump from project to project to project without finishing anything. For example, let's say you spend 3 months trying to start an astronomy club at your school. You create a draft, you onboard some initial members, and you talk to your school's administration. But during this 3-month period, AI becomes all the buzz. It's the only thing your friends and teachers are talking about. So what do? You stop working on the astronomy club and decide to start an AI club instead. Cool, so now you spend another 3 months trying to set up this club, but during that time you hear of a friend who's doing an AI research project at a local university. So now you think to yourself, oh my god, would that be better for my college applications? So what do? You abandon the AI club and spend months trying to find a research position. Unfortunately, however, all the local labs have filled up and now it's the end of the school year, so you're left with nothing. Although you started 3 different projects over this 9-month period, you finished none of them. Now this is an oddly specific example, but SOS applies to many areas of our lives. For example, today when I'm deciding what videos to make or when I'm working on my business projects, I often deal with this phenomenon all the time. So what do the top 1% of students do? They resist the shiny objects. Early on in their academic careers, they usually pick something and then they stick to it. And the truth is, you can turn anything into a notable accomplishment as long as you stick with it for long enough. Spend freshman year exploring different opportunities and then the rest of high school diving in, whether that's starting a business, starting an organization, training for an Olympiad, or so on. And look, I know you have many different interests, and I'm not telling you to choose one and discard the rest. Feel free to explore everything as long as you're putting most of your focus towards one singular pursuit, your magnum opus. Principle number 2 is no 0 days. Achieving success is difficult, but the formula to it is relatively simple. Step number 1, identify what you have to do, and step number 2, do that thing consistently. For example, if I wanted to get better at basketball, and I mean genuinely better, I would practice for a little bit every single day. I would practice my layups, my jump shots, my free throws, my 3-pointers, all of which clearly need some work. And as the great Kobe Bryant once said, it's the consistency of the work. A similar mindset applies to school, whether we're talking about exams, assignments, or extracurriculars. So much of your academic success simply depends on you showing up every single day. So what is a 0 day? A 0 day is when you make no progress towards your goal. A non-0 day, on the other hand, is when you put in even the tiniest amount of work, whether it's a single push-up, reading a single page, or writing a single line of code. But Gohar, what good is a single line, a single push-up, or a single page gonna do for me? And to that I say, valid question. The answer is probably nothing. But no 0 days is less about the tangible progress and more about the mindset and the momentum. Because let's say you have a goal and you're showing up every single day and putting in the work. The second you break your streak, it's going to become much easier to miss 2 days and then 3 days. And eventually reach a point where that goal no longer feels worthwhile. All this comes back to the psychological tendency for humans to see their goals in an all or nothing way. For example, while we're making progress towards our goals, we feel great, but even a minor slip up can cause us to give up entirely. That's why the concept of no 0 days is so important. It helps you avoid excuses even on the days when you're low on time or low on energy. And most importantly, it's a way for you to signal to yourself that you haven't given up. At the end of the day, even a tiny amount of progress is better than no progress at all. Principle number 3, build a system. James Clear is an American author who wrote Atomic Habits, which is one of the most widely acclaimed self-help books in the world. Here's a popular quote of his: "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." And throughout high school, college, and even post-college life, that statement has always rung true. Whether or not we achieve our goals and how fast we achieve those goals depends on the systems we have in place to keep ourselves on track. The most basic of these systems is a to-do list, which I'm sure that all of you already use. But a to-do list probably isn't enough. As a student, you ideally want a system that helps you track everything related to school, such as your exam, assignments, and extracurriculars. You also ideally want a system that helps you track everything related to your life, such as your goals, habits, finances, and health. And of course, when the time comes, you also want a system that can help you navigate the college admissions process. Luckily, I've spent the last couple months building such a system, ScholarOS. ScholarOS is my all-in-one Notion template designed to help you manage every single aspect of your life, whether your academics, extracurriculars, finances, health, college apps, and much more. This template is easy to use and designed for students of all ages, including middle school students, high school students, and even college students. You can check it out at the link in my description. Now, if you've never used Notion before, you're in luck. They sponsored this video, which gives me a couple minutes to take you through the basics. Alright, so what is Notion? Think of it as an all-in-one productivity tool that helps you organize every aspect of your life. You can use it to organize your schoolwork, extracurriculars, college apps, finances, workouts, and so much more. But how is that possible? What makes Notion so powerful? Well, it's fully customizable. I often compare Notion to Legos. You can build your own custom pages using something called blocks, which include headings, checklists, quotes, callouts, and more. We can also create columns to tidy things up or add colors or change icons, and we can even add widgets to fully personalize our workspace. Now, if you're new to Notion, all of this might sound a little overwhelming, and you might not have the time to create your own templates. That's where ScholarOS enters the picture. ScholarOS consists of 3 hubs: an academic hub, a college app hub, and a life hub. The academic hub is where you organize everything related to school. Think your classes, notes, assignments, and exams so you never miss a deadline. I've even included a few prompts that you can feed into Notion AI to create study guides, flashcards, and multiple choice quizzes. Now, the college app hub is where you organize and track everything related to your college applications. Think your essays, your college list, your letters of recommendation, and your scholarships. And if you're not in the college admissions process yet, don't worry. I've also included a master timeline that breaks down everything you should be doing each year to increase your chances of acceptance. And finally, the Life Hub rounds out the template, giving you a space to track habits, set goals, plan workouts, and even level up your skills. I also want to quickly highlight the Notion Web Clipper extension, which makes it super easy to capture online resources and add them to your template. Now, if you choose to get ScholarOS, you'll also get access to an in-depth tutorial that'll break down how to use the template. And it'll also cover many of the features that I didn't get to cover here. If you're ready to level up not just academically, but in all areas of your life, you can get ScholarOS for just $19, and that also includes free lifetime upgrades. Your purchase will support the channel and the free educational content that I produce, so thank you. Alright, and the fourth principle is avoid competition. Now, this principle might sound a bit counterintuitive, especially given the title of this video. I mean, if you're trying to become a top 1% student, aren't you by definition beating and thus competing against 99% of students? The problem with competition is that it diverts our focus to the wrong attributes. For example, we see in someone else the accolades or the characteristics that we want, and so we set that person as the standard. But by doing that, you're now focusing on what you're naturally inclined to do well in. For example, let's say you have a friend who's extremely gifted at science fairs and has won a bunch over the past couple of years. Or maybe you go to an elite high school and you're surrounded by a bunch of science fair winners. It wouldn't be a surprise if you also start competing in science fairs, whether you like them or not. But let's say you're artistic, or you're super athletic, or you're musically inclined. Well, now you're just competing on the wrong front. Instead of leaning into your own natural advantages, now you're trying to prove yourself in a field that you don't even care about. Now, what if you do like science fairs? Well, I think you should still try to avoid competition, and here's what I mean. Humans are naturally imitative creatures. The more you obsess over what people around you are doing, the more you're going to mirror them, whether consciously or unconsciously. For example, let's say everyone around you is working on a computer science, biomedical, or sustainability research project. Naturally, you might begin to think that you can only do a project in a STEM field. But did you know that you could do research in English or even history? If you end up pursuing an English research project, which is a very random example, you're going to instantly propel yourself into the top 1% because very few high school students do humanities research, let alone research at all. Competition breeds sameness. It locks your mind in a bubble, closing you off to the possibilities around you. As entrepreneur Peter Thiel, who I know people have very mixed opinions about, once said, there often comes this tremendous price that you stop asking some bigger questions about what's truly important and truly valuable. Don't always go through the tiny little door that everyone's trying to rush through. Maybe go around the corner and go through the vast gate that nobody is taking. This is why I recommend that you constantly reflect on your own interests, seeking out novel ways to deepen them. Lean into what might seem weird or atypical or even impractical for someone your age. Because let me tell you, a few decades ago, high school students were not starting nonprofits or businesses or doing research like they are today. But at some point, there had to be those first few students who said, hey, even though I'm only 16 or 17, I want to push my intellectual limits and see what I can do. Be the first in your age group, in your area of interest, to do something novel. Cast a bold, unfettered vision both for yourself and the world around you, and do everything you can to bring that vision to fruition. That's how you end up in the top 1%. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, like, leave a comment, join my Discord and newsletter if you haven't already, and I'll see you again next week.